Zena was the kind of woman who built her dreams with her own hands. From a small corner in Kumasi, she stitched fabric into fashion and turned passion into profit. Her days were long, her nights even longer, but she never complained. She loved what she did. And she loved Ibuka. They had been together for 5 years. 5 full years of birthdays, late-night calls, surprise visits, and whispered promises. Ibuka was everything she thought she wanted. Charming, successful, and rich. He ran a thriving business and always spoke of a future together. "You're my forever," he used to say, brushing a strand of hair from her face. One day he handed her something that made her heart stop. A gold ring, delicate but heavy with meaning. "It belonged to my mother," he told her. "Keep it safe until I put it on your finger." Zena was stunned. She clutched it like a secret, believing it was the start of forever. She told her friends, her sister, even her tailor. Everyone thought the proposal was just around the corner. She wore that ring on a chain close to her heart, every single day. But what Zena didn't know was that Ibuka had a different story in mind. One that didn't include her. While she was sketching dresses and dreaming of white lace and aisle walks, he was planning something else. Something that would leave her more broken than she ever imagined. And that ring she held so close? It wasn't a promise. It was a lie. At first, Zena tried to ignore it. The late replies, the missed calls, the sudden work emergencies that took Ibuka away for days. He used to call her every night before bed, even just to say goodnight. Now his phone barely rang, and when it did, he'd step out to answer, always whispering, always looking over his shoulder. Zena noticed everything. The way he avoided eye contact. The way he kept his phone face down on the table. The way he smiled at her, but it didn't quite reach his eyes anymore. Her chest tightened every time he said, "You worry too much," because deep down, her gut was screaming, something's wrong. He started taking trips to Lagos without telling her. Business trips, he said. Last-minute meetings. But the details never added up. Sometimes his assistant would call Zena by mistake, thinking he was still in Kumasi. And once she found a boarding pass in his jacket pocket dated 3 days before he claimed he left. Still, Zena said nothing. She didn't want to seem insecure. She didn't want to push him away. Her heart clung to hope, but her soul was tired. Then one night, everything changed. She was scrolling through Instagram, just trying to distract herself. A tagged photo popped up. It wasn't from someone she followed, but it stopped her cold. There was Ibuka, smiling wide, dressed in a suit she hadn't seen before. And beside him, holding onto his arm like they belonged to each other, was a girl. Younger. Trendy. Influencer type. And on her finger? A gold ring. Zena blinked. Zoomed in. Froze. It was the same ring. The one he gave to Zena for safekeeping. The one he said belonged to his late mother. The one she had held to her heart like a promise. In that moment, everything inside her cracked. All the silence made sense. All the distance, the lies, the strange trips, it was all right there in one photo. One tag. One betrayal. She didn't cry. Not yet. She just sat there holding her phone, staring at the image of the man she thought would be. Zena couldn't sleep that night. Her body was still, but her mind raced through every memory, every word, every sweet promise Ibuka had made. She kept staring at the photo, hoping her eyes were playing tricks. But they weren't. The ring was real. The girl was real. The betrayal, too loud to ignore. The next morning it was everywhere. The influencer, the same girl from the photo, had posted a video on Instagram. He proposed. She screamed with excitement, showing off the ring on her perfectly manicured finger. Zena watched in silence, her breath caught in her throat. There it was, the same delicate gold ring with the tiny emerald stone. The one Ibuka said belonged to his mother. The one he told Zena to guard with love. The girl kept twirling her hand, letting the sunlight hit the gold just right, while Ibuka stood behind her smiling like he hadn't just shattered someone's world. Comments poured in. Power couple. OMG, that ring. She's glowing. The world was cheering. But all Zena felt was silence. Deafening, heavy silence. She sat on her bedroom floor, the chain that once held the ring now empty against her chest. Her hands trembled. Not from anger. From heartbreak. That ring had meant everything to her. Not because it was expensive or fancy, but because it was supposed to be the start of forever. It was a symbol. A promise. Now it was a showpiece in someone else's story, a lie wrapped in gold. Zena didn't cry at first. The pain was too sharp, too raw. It felt like watching your house burn down while everyone claps for the fireworks. Her friends started sending her the video. Have you seen this? Is that the same ring? She turned off her phone. She couldn't answer. She couldn't even breathe. Her heart felt like it had been yanked out of her chest and put on display. She gave that man 5 years of her life, her love, her trust, and in the end, he handed her silence while giving another woman the ring that wasn't meant for her. That wasn't just a ring. It was Zen. Zena didn't yell. She didn't throw things or call him crying. No long texts, no desperate voice notes. Just silence. A silence so deep it could crush bones. She was done asking why. Done waiting for answers. Ibuka had made his choice. Now it was her turn. She took a cab to their shared apartment in Kumasi, the one they decorated together, where she kept her sewing machine in the corner by the window. The place looked the same, but it didn't feel like home anymore. Her hands didn't shake. Her heart didn't race. She was calm. Too calm. She walked in, gently placed her keys on the counter and stood for a moment. The air still smelled like his cologne and fresh laundry. She looked around and noticed everything was still in place. His wardrobe wide open. His designer suit still hanging. Shoes lined up like soldiers. And there on the shelf above their bed, sat the pride of his collection. His watches. Zena knew what each one meant to him. The vintage Rolex he bought after his first big deal. The limited edition Omega he only wore on special occasions. The hublet he once said would be his legacy piece. All of them untouched. She stared at them, blinking slowly. Then, without a word, she reached up and took them down one by one. No rush. No guilt. Just calm. She opened one of her old travel bags and gently wrapped each watch in her scarves, the ones he used to compliment. With each piece, a bit of her pain melted into something else. Something stronger. She wasn't stealing. She wasn't angry. She was reclaiming something. Time. Power. Dignity. He gave her silence. She was answering with quiet strength. When the bag was full, she zipped it up and looked around one last time. She didn't take his money. She didn't touch his laptop. Just the watches. The ones he loved the most. The ones he never thought she'd dare touch. Zena walked out with her head high, heels clicking softly against the floor like punctuation to a sentence he never saw coming. This wasn't rage. Zena stepped off the bus in Accra with the same bag that once held her pain. Now it held something else, possibility. She didn't rush. She didn't hide. Dressed in a simple white blouse and dark sunglasses, she walked through the city streets like a woman with a plan. She found the shop easily. It was tucked between a luxury shoe store and a fine jewelry boutique. Glass doors, marble floors, nothing shady about it. This wasn't your average back alley pawn shop. It was high-end, quiet, serious, just like her. The clerk looked up, young and polished, clearly used to a different kind of customer. Zena didn't flinch. She placed the bag on the counter and opened it carefully. One by one, she laid out the watches, Rolex, Omega, hublet. Each one gleamed under the showroom lights like they had never been touched by betrayal. The clerk raised an eyebrow. "These are real," he said, almost surprised. Zena gave a small smile. Of course. They were gifts. He didn't ask more. He didn't need to. Her tone said it all. After an hour of inspection, paperwork, and signatures, she walked out with a heavy envelope in her purse and a lightness in her heart. It wasn't just money. It was freedom. She went straight to the bank and paid off the small business loans she'd been worrying about for months. Then she ordered new fabrics from Italy and Ghana, refilled her boutique with fresh designs, and finally bought herself that embroidery machine she had bookmarked for years. That night, with her legs tucked under her and a glass of wine in hand, she booked a solo trip to Zanzibar. 5 days. Ocean view. No calls. No drama. Just peace. Zena didn't cry when she let those watches go. She didn't think of Ibuka. She didn't need to. He had already become part of her past, and now she was writing something new. She smiled as she closed her laptop, knowing one thing for sure. He took her for granted, but she turned his lies into her restart. Sometimes the best revenge is rebuilding. Quietly. When Ibuka returned to Kumasi a week later, everything felt off the moment he stepped into the apartment. The air was colder. The silence louder. He called out for Zena, but there was no answer. Only the faint sound of traffic from the street below. He dropped his suitcase by the door and walked in, already annoyed, expecting another dramatic argument. But what he found stopped him in his tracks. The closet was half empty. Her shoes, her dresses, her sketchbooks gone. He rushed to the bedroom shelf, heart suddenly pounding. The watches. His watches. All of them gone. On the kitchen table was a single white envelope with his name on it. He tore it open, hands shaking. No anger. No insults. Just her handwriting, calm and clear. I know everything. I saw the ring. This is goodbye. You don't owe me an explanation. And I don't owe you a second chance. Ibuka's jaw clenched. His chest burned. He tried calling her, blocked. He checked her social media, quiet. No chaos, no posts. Just silence. Rage took over. He stormed into the police station the next morning, shouting about stolen watches, about betrayal, about how he wanted justice. But the officer barely blinked. Zena had already been there. Receipts, photos, screenshots of messages where he clearly called the watches gifts. Proof of purchase under her name for the apartment's furniture and appliances. She had even sent the pawn shop receipt, with her name cleanly signed at the bottom. Everything she took was legally hers or gifted to her. There was nothing to press charges for. Nothing to hold her on. Just a man left with his lies. News travels fast. And in Ibuka's circle, image is everything. Word got out about the watches, the influencer scandal, the failed proposal, the woman who walked away with receipts and dignity. His boss man reputation started to crack. Clients pulled out of deals. Partners stopped returning calls. And that shiny new engagement? Over. The influencer deleted all their photos and Zena didn't just move on, she transformed. After the dust settled, she poured every bit of her pain, anger, and strength into her work. She changed the name of her boutique to Zena Gold, a name that felt powerful, bold, and untouchable. She redesigned her logo, revamped her store, and turned her Heartbreak into a whole new vibe. Strong, fearless, unforgettable. Her first new collection was called Rebirth. Every piece told a story. Deep reds for pain. Gold for power. Flowing fabrics for freedom. She posted short behind-the-scenes videos on TikTok, clips of her sewing at 2 a.m., voiceovers about starting over, small notes like, "He gave me silence, so I stitched my own song." The videos took off. Women shared them with captions like, "This is the energy I need," and "Zena Gold is a whole movement." Instagram followed. Orders doubled. Then tripled. Influencers started wearing her pieces, tagging her brand in their captions. Her inbox flooded with messages from women thanking her for being brave, for showing them what healing could look like. One afternoon, she received an email that made her hands shake, but this time from joy. An invitation to showcase at Johannesburg Fashion Week. The real deal. She stared at the screen, heart full. This was everything she once dreamed of, and now it was happening because she chose herself. Zena walked the runway in Joburg with her head held high, wearing a custom gold dress she designed herself, elegant, structured, unstoppable. The crowd stood and clapped as her models walked out, each one dressed like a different version of the woman she used to be, heartbroken, healing, rising, thriving. This wasn't just fashion anymore. It was a statement. Her heartbreak became her fuel. Her story became her superpower. And the girl who once cried quietly in her room now had a whole world clapping for her glow up. She didn't need revenge. She needed rebirth. And she gave it to herself, stitch by stitch, step by step, until the whole world had in. It was a sunny Thursday afternoon when Ibuka walked into Zena Gold. The boutique smelled like fresh fabric and success. Soft music played in the background. Sunlight poured through the windows, bouncing off the golden accents in the store. Zena was behind the counter, checking fabrics for a client order, when she saw him. At first she thought her mind was playing tricks. But no, it was really him. Same walk, same face, but something was different. He looked smaller. Tired. Not the confident man who once lied to her face. Now his shoulders were heavy, eyes red like he hadn't slept in days. He stood there frozen. She didn't flinch. She didn't blink. She just smiled, cool, calm, collected. "Zena," he said, his voice shaky. "I made a mistake." She looked at him, raising an eyebrow like she was waiting for more. "I lost everything," he went on. "The business, the deals, her. She left too. But you were real. You always were. You'll always be my queen." Zena almost laughed. Not out loud, but in her heart. She remembered the girl who once stayed up waiting for his texts, who once believed his lies, who once thought that ring meant forever. That girl was gone. She stepped around the counter and walked up to him slowly, her heels clicking like punctuation marks. Then she reached for something on the nearby display. A flyer. "Our new men's collection is launching next week," she said with a gentle smile. "Here's a discount. For suits designed for men who don't lie." She handed him the flyer like it was a business card, then walked away without another word. Ibuka stood there, stunned, holding the paper in his hand like it was a breakup letter all over again. But Zena? She didn't turn back. She didn't need to, because she had already won. Not by hurting him, but by healing herself. She didn't need closure. She had growth. She didn't need revenge. She had peace. And as the door closed behind him, she went back to her fabrics, her dreams, her empire, where the ring sat at the bottom of Zena's jewelry box for weeks. She hadn't touched it since everything happened. It was the same ring Ibuka once gave her for safekeeping. His mother's ring. The same ring she later saw shining on another woman's hand. That tiny gold circle had held so much pain, so many lies. But now it was time to turn it into something new. One rainy morning, she held the ring in her palm, staring at it for a long time. This ring had never been a promise. It had been a warning, a reminder of how blind love had made her. But she was no longer that woman. Without hesitation, she walked into a small, quiet goldsmith shop in Accra. The woman behind the counter greeted her with a warm smile. Zena placed the ring on the table. "I want this melted," she said softly. "I'm turning it into something better." The goldsmith nodded. No questions. Just work. Within hours, the ring that once symbolized betrayal was transformed. Softened, reshaped, reborn. Zena used the melted gold to design the first piece in her brand new jewelry line. She called it Rise. A single word with so much meaning. The first collection featured delicate gold pieces. Rings, necklaces, earrings. Each named after emotions she had survived. Clarity. Power. No more tears. She launched it with a powerful video on Instagram and TikTok. It opened with a close-up of the original ring, then showed it melting, and finally transforming into something beautiful. The caption read, "From pain to power. For every woman who's ever been lied to, and chose to rise anyway." The response was overwhelming. Women from all over the world commented, shared, cried. Stories poured in: cheaters, betrayals, divorces, heartbreaks, and how they too had picked themselves up. Zena didn't just sell jewelry. She sold healing. Hope. Her designs weren't just accessories, they were reminders. That being broken doesn't mean being weak. That pain can be gold if you choose to shape it. And the ring? The one that